going to finish 14 and 15 chapters. So the market, competitive markets and monopoly. And of course, not very detailed, but I try to summarize these topics to you to give you some feedback about these topics. And after this class, then I will give you some information about this selling price and floor price that you may ask me. I don't know who was asking me. I think you were the one, Olufem. You sent me the mail. Voilà, vale.
Yes, sir. I was thinking if general revision.
General revision in 1 hour is not possible because we have more than 10 chapters. And I don't know how I'm going to manage this revision. If we were in the class, even I can do this because it is too long. And if I'm going to summarize everything in 1 hour, it is not possible. As you are understanding, economics is not that much simple to put in 1 hour. I can give you some feedback about the exam, but you can write me anytime, mail or from WhatsApp, your questions, and I can help you because it is not possible to summarize everything in 1 hour really because it will then make more confusion in your mind. So you study, and if you don't understand any section or any part, you write me mail and I will reply you. I will try to explain you, or if you want, I can come to the online class again and then help you via online face-to-face, not face-to-face, I mean online communication will help you probably. Okay?
All right, sir.
Okay, then I prefer to start now. And then after these chapters, then I will give you some information about this selling price. You may ask me which part you didn't understand, and I will give you exactly these parts. I will inform you about this part because I can do the chapter all once again. Let me go to the chapter 14 first and then chapter 15. Okay. The competitive markets, as you know, it is one of the important part of our classes. We are always working with the competitive markets. There is also imperfect competitions, competitive markets, which is, of course, dependent to the oligopoly, monopoly, is his single producer or monopoly, single consumer related. I will try to give you today these topics in an hour, if it is possible. You may ask me question if you have any problem. The production possibility frontiers, as you are understanding from our former classes, is dependent to the output, is related with the output and the factors of production which is joining to this production operation process. And here on this graphic, we illustrated the production function with the labor. The labor is affecting and changing the factors of total production, also called the production possibility frontiers. And this production function is given here, which is inverse U belly shape on this graphic. And it is, of course, decreasing amount of increase realized again here when you are enlarging the labor, and it is coming to the maximum, also called the optimum points, as you see on the top of this inverse U shape. And then after this, then the labor contribution is decreasing. Therefore, we are, of course, today going to exercise a little bit more so-called econometrical mathematical part of these applications together with the theory. But of course, I am not planning to ask you too much calculation in the exam since you are in the first class and in the first semester. I will try to concentrate more to the theoretical part and some, of course, connection to these calculations and, of course, models and econometrical applications will be introduced to you, but not too much. This simplest production function is given here is related with the factors of production, which is only the capital and labor introduced, and y is the output. You know, the production function or equation is related with the total output, which is equal to the factors of production combination. This is here given capital multiplied with labor. And when you are going to put this on the graphic, which we illustrate here only the labor, because we can draw a graphic with the two-dimensional illustration. If we have three-dimensional graphic here, we put probably the capital either, then you will understand how it is affecting and changing this total output or total production possibilities. Here we are giving you, as we have exercised in the production section in 13 chapter, in chapter 13, we exercise the average fixed cost, we exercise the average variable cost, average total cost, and the marginal cost, which is intersect the average total cost and average variable cost from the minimum points. As you are understanding, this is of course directly related with the amount of the production and of course the cost of this production. And as you are observing here, the fixed cost will be added to the average variable cost, and this will then gives the average total cost. And after estimating this, then we can easily estimate the marginal cost, which is delta total C over delta Q, so-called the differentiation of the total cost will be divided to the differentiation of the total quantity, will gives us the marginal cost, which is intersecting the average total cost and average variable cost. And the average variable cost, as I said to you, the total variable cost will be divided to the quantity of goods. This is, of course, the cyclical deviation of the total variable cost, which is illustrated on the graphic. And average fixed cost is equal to the average total cost minus average variable cost. Or if you're gonna put this average variable cost plus average fixed cost, will gives you the average total cost. And then the total cost will be then equal to the average variable cost plus average fixed cost multiplied with the quantity of goods, so-called the Q in the horizontal axis. And then the total variable cost is equal to the variable cost per unit multiplied with the quantity of goods which is produced in this given example. If you have any problem with these simplest calculations which we did in our last lecture, last class, you may ask me. If you don't, then we go continuing. We will continue to do these competitive markets, because this is related with this formula and these topics. And the total fixed cost, as I said to you, is going to be equally calculated total cost minus total variable cost, or as I said to you, total cost is equal to total variable cost plus total fixed cost. And then when you are looking here on the graphic, we have the total fixed cost, which is supposed to be an intercept point, and it is usually a constant value. And the total variable cost, if you don't include the total fixed cost, it is started from 0 and goes as a nonlinear curve to the upper direction, because as much as you are increasing output, it is expected the cost and revenue is also enlarged and increased. And the total cost is, of course, is going to be starts, which is almost parallelly drawn to the total variable cost, but it is included, added the total fixed cost on this curve. The total cost curve is, of course, the combination of the total variable cost plus total fixed cost. And the total revenue is the amount of the capital that we are collecting is dependent to the price and produced goods multiplication. As much as you are calculating the unit price and you calculate the unit product, then you add this and calculate the total amount, you will calculate the total revenue on this direction. Therefore, price multiplied amount of the quantity which is produced will give you the total revenue. And the total cost is, of course, the fixed cost plus variable cost, as we know from the former examples. But on this class, we are going to exercise this, of course, with the combination of the factors of production, which is here represented with the capital plus labor. And as you are understanding, the capital is multiplied with the interest rate, so-called the real interest rate here is represented here as given K plus R plus L plus W. Here K is the capital, R is the interest rate, plus L is the amount of the labor, and W is the wages. And the total cost, as I said to you, is the average variable cost plus average fixed cost multiplied with the amount of the quantity produced. And the total cost, as I mentioned to you, is the labor plus wages plus capital plus interest, so-called the real interest rate here is considered. And the total variable cost here is the variable cost per unit multiplied with the quantity of goods, which is important for estimating this revenue and total cost that will give the total amount of the profit which is going to be calculated today. When we are representing and put this graphic or this cost on the figure, we will have the marginal cost, as you are understanding, which is intersecting the average total cost, and we have the price, which is equal to the average revenue and equal to the marginal revenue. That will gives you the, of course, profit also. And then the, of course, average total cost, where it is intersecting the total cost, so-called the average total cost, and the difference of these two, average total cost and price, which is multiplied with the quantity, will gives you the profit. The marginal revenue is, of course, the delta total revenue divided to the delta Q, which means the differentiation of the total revenue will be divided to the differentiation of the total amount of this product which is going to be produced. Therefore, the difference from TR, so-called revenue 1 to revenue 2, will be subtracted from each other, and Q1 and Q2 will be subtracted, and then this will then gives you the marginal revenue. This will then help you to estimate the amount of the additional revenue to the production operation process. And the marginal revenue, as I said to you, is the change in the total revenue will be divided to the change in the quantity of goods, which we call this differentiation, or delta TR divided to the delta Q. And then marginal cost is then equal to the delta total cost will be divided to the delta Q. And the marginal cost is equal to change in total cost divided to the change in quantity of goods, is given in this slides. And the profit will be then, of course, total revenue minus total cost, which is, of course, estimated by subtracting the P minus average total cost, which is given to you on the graphic, as you see in the table here. Do you remember this? P minus average total cost multiplied with the Q, as I said to you. P minus average total cost multiplied with the Q, then this will then gives you the total cost, and the loss, if there is, total cost minus total revenue is of course. Yes, please. You have any question? total cost minus total revenue. If it is negative, this means there is a loss, and if there is a positive numbers here, of course, when you are going to put the total revenue minus total cost is also same. If you subtract total revenue minus total cost, and if it is positive, we call it is good because there is a profit. But if it is negative, there is of because total cost means higher than total revenue if it is positive, if it is given and written in this formula. But if it is opposite, total revenue minus total cost, and it is positive, then you have profit. I think it goes, somebody quit. Are you able to follow me? Is that okay? Shall I have to go?
Yes, sir, we are able to follow you.
Okay, then we go to the next slides. So-called break-even point, where the value of quantity of goods is supposed to be average total revenue is equal to the average total cost. On the graphic, I will show you. This is then, of course, start points of this profit. And the profit maximizing condition supposed to be marginal revenue should be equal to the marginal cost. And marginal revenue minus marginal cost is supposed to be equal to the demand curve, which is the price also. And for competitive market, we suppose price is equal to marginal revenue equals to marginal cost in the competitive markets. And here, as you see, it is a little bit different. And when we are going to get this example, then you will understand easily what is the meaning of this profit in this direction. Suppose maintenance costs constitute the variable cost associated with the building the road. In order to answer the first four parts of the question, you will need to compute total revenue, marginal cost as it is given in this example. Using the midpoint convention, the profit maximizing level of output is 2.5 million trips per year, with the number of trips marginal revenue, which is supposed to be $0.60, and equal marginal cost is supposed to be $0.60. Again, we use the midpoint convention. The company will charge a total of 0.85, and the marginal revenue is 0.60, which is less than 0.85 tool, also called price. Then when we are going to put this to the graphic as it is given in the example, the price per trip is supposed to be $1, and the next trip is going to be $0.90, then 0.80, and 0.70, 0.60, and 0.20. As you are observing, it is as much as the number of trips per year is increasing, the price per trip is supposed to be reduced, and the total variable cost here is supposed to be 0.70, which is going to be increased, then is going to be 1.2, 1.8. This is given numbers, and then is 1.8, 2.9, 4.2, and 6.0. This is a given numbers. Then you have here the total revenue, which is going to be estimated $1, $1.80, or $80 million, and 2.40, 2.80, $3, and $3 again for the sixth trip. And then we're going to calculate the marginal revenue here, which is the differentiation of the total revenue to total number of trips. Then will gives you the revenue, and the cost, of course, is going to be the differentiation of the total variable cost will be divided to total number of trips. Therefore, if you are going to calculate this, then you will get for the marginal revenue for the second trip to between one to second trip, first and second trip is going to be 0.80. For the marginal revenue from second trip to third trip is going to be 0.60. From third trip to fourth trip is going to be 0.40, and it goes like this to 0.2 and 0.0 in the last. The marginal revenue is going to be 0, and the marginal cost here, as you are observing, is 0.50. Of course, as I said to you, the delta total variable cost will be divided to the delta quantity of the trip. Of course, here we are going to concentrate to the total amount of the cost, but we don't have here this total amount. Then we are going to concentrate to the total variable. Probably the total fixed cost is not related for the trips. And then marginal cost is going to be 0.50 from first trip to second trip. From second trip to third trip is going to be 0.60. This is only the differentiation because every trip between the trips there is only one numbers, one unit. Therefore, from first to second, you're going to reduce it to 1. You're going to get this delta Q1 for each because it is regularly increased from 1 to 2, from second to third, from third to fourth. Therefore, the differentiation is always 1 unit. Therefore, when you're going to divide this marginal revenue or total revenue to this differentiation, you will have the differentiation of the total revenue either, as you are observing here, from 1.80 from 1 to second, the total revenue is going to be reduced to 1.80 to 1 is going to be 0.80. Then when you are going to divide this 0.80 to 1, then you get again 0.80. Therefore, the differentiation of this total revenue is also giving this marginal revenue because the differentiation of the trips is only 1 unit. Therefore, for the marginal cost, we have the similar application. The difference between total variable cost plus fixed cost, which is not here included, then you have only 0.50. Then when you are going to move to the second one, as you are observing here, 1.2 to 1.80, the total variable cost, the differentiation is 0.60. From 1.80 to 2.90, you have here again 1.10 for the marginal cost, the differentiation. And when you're going to divide it to the trip is also 1, then you get 1.10. And then when you're going to the fourth and fifth differentiation, you have 1.30 because 4.2 minus 2.90 will gives you the 1.30. And when you are going to divide this, the differentiation of the trips is also 1, then you will get 1.30 for the marginal cost, which is given in this example. And the last one is also similarly applied. 6 minus 4.2 will give you the 1.80. When you are going to divide it to the 1, then you will have here again 1.80 for the marginal cost in this given example. I hope you understand what we are doing here, because in the example is also given the marginal cost is the differentiation of the total cost will be divided to the differentiation of the quantity, and the marginal revenue is the differentiation of the total revenue will be divided to the differentiation of the Q, or marginal cost is equal to delta TC over delta Q, and marginal revenue is equal to delta TR divided to delta Q. If you have any problem with this example, you ask me. If you don't, then I will go further. It's okay? Shall I have to go on?
It's okay, sir.
Okay, then we have here another simplest example, the total average and marginal revenue for the competitive markets, and the quantity is given again 1, 2, 3, 4 is a orderly given here. The differentiation also, the quantity is 1 unit again, and prices here unique is euro, and the total revenue here P multiplied Q is 6 for the first unit, 12 for the second unit, 18 for the third unit. It goes like this, and for the last unit, 8 unit multiplied 6 is going to give you 48. And the average revenue is, of course, the total revenue divided to the Q. This is average revenue, not marginal revenue. Therefore, total revenue will be divided to the Q, and the total revenue here is $6 for the first unit. When you're going to divide it to the quantity, which is 1 liter, then you will have 6 units. And when you are getting the total revenue differentiation for the every next step, next quantity enlargement is always 6 units. Therefore, when you get this total revenue, then you will have always 6 units is divided to the 1 unit. Then you will have always 6, 6, 6. It goes like that. And the marginal revenue is also that delta total revenue divided to the delta Q. Again here, the differentiation is also 6 units for each enlargement and increase of the quantity will be divided to this quantity. Then again, you are having here 6 units for the all quantity, which is increased to 8 units. Similar number 6, let's say euro for the marginal revenue. Additional units contribution to the revenue is always 6 euro. And the continuation of this, then as you are observing here, the total revenue is again here given, and the total cost is of course then calculated as $3, as $5, $8, $12. It goes like this, and the total revenue minus total cost will gives you the, of course, profit. And here, as you see in the first, for the 0 units, when you don't have anything, then it is only 3 euro. And for the first unit, it is going to be $1, because 6 minus 5 will gives you 1 euro, sorry, not dollar. And for the third unit, for the second unit, sorry, 12 minus 8 is going to be 4 euro, the profit. And it goes like this. For the fourth is 7, for the fifth is 7, because 30 minus 27, 23 is 7, 24 minus 17 is 7, 36 minus 30 is 6. Therefore, as you are observing, the fourth and fifth quantity, the amount of the produced goods and services, will offer the highest profit. And after this profit starts to decrease, is diminishing, is decreasing, and then it goes to 1 again after we produce the 8th unit, also called the 8,000 unit per day. If it is produced, probably the profit will be the minimum again. Therefore, for this company, we may say, if you're going to produce regularly 5 units per day or 4 units per day, also called 4,000 units or 4 million units per day, this will be the best possible production process for your company, because you will have the highest profit. And the marginal revenue, as you are observing here, the additional contribution is again unique, is 6 euro. And the marginal cost, as you are observing here, when we are looking here, is going to be minimum when you have the first unit, and it goes to, again, as you are observing here, for the fourth, fifth, probably the average is 5 and 6 euro is the cost, which is reasonable profit offered. And then it goes, then increase and enlarge the cost of this production operation process. Therefore, you don't have to produce the highest number per day, which is here 8 units, but you may produce you may prefer to produce 4 units per day, or 5 units per day, where you have the profit change in the profit is 0 or 1 unit, because after this fourth and then fifth is going to be 0 or negative profit, which is after the fifth unit of 5,000 unit is going to be -1, -2, and -3. For the 6, 7, and 8, the amount of the profit is in negative. Therefore, there is no need to enlarge and increase this production process to the higher level, and it is better to prefer the 4 units per day, 4 units per day, or 5 units per day, which is going to offer reasonable profit for this company. And when we are going to illustrate on the graphic the marginal cost, marginal revenue, average total cost, average variable cost, you are having here, as you are observing, the average variable cost almost similar to the average total cost, because average total cost includes the average fixed cost, and the intersection of this marginal cost from the minimum points of the average total cost and average variable cost is the suggestion to have the, of course, possible production operation in a given model. The intersection here, as you see, the price is equal to average revenue and marginal revenue. is supposed to be the best possible for this given example, and the firm maximizes profit by producing the quantity at which marginal cost equals to marginal revenue, as I said to you. If it is above, it is preferred to be profitable, but if it is below this so-called demand curve or average revenue or marginal revenue, if it is going below the average total cost and average variable cost, then this is of course questionable and it is not preferable for the companies. And again, when we are having here this, you see the marginal cost curve is the supply curve, so-called the production, so-called the produced good amount is represented here. And as you see, if it is below the average total cost and average variable cost is negative, but if it is above, it's supposed to be a reasonable profit is expected. Therefore, the firm always prefer to have this production function and of course the amount of the profit above this average total cost, because if it is going to be low, it is then of course causing some loss for the company and is not preferred. Now we have here the firm's short run application, and as you are observing here, the short run is a year, is maximum 1 year, and it is supposed that firm short run profit will be available or will be realized when the average variable cost is of course, and of course average total cost is increased and enlarged after this marginal cost curve drawn. If the profit is subjected, this means this profit is available after this average variable cost and of course after the average total cost for the short run. Firm will prefer to enter into the market because price is supposed to be higher than average variable cost as well as average total cost. Therefore, in the short run, if the price is above the average variable cost, there is a profit for the firm. But of course, firm, if exercise below price, below the average variable cost, is not going to join or enter into the market because the average variable cost is higher than price and it is of course negative profit. Therefore, we are preferring to enter into the market if the price is higher than average variable cost and continue to produce in the short run only for the firms, because in the long run is a little bit different. You should remember this. Average variable cost is the start point for the firm where the supply curve is exceed this point and create some surplus and create some profit. And as I said to you, as much as the price above the average variable cost, there is profit and firm will prefer to enter into the market, but also average, if the price is higher than the average total cost, firm continue to produce because it is profitable region for this company in the competitive markets. But if the price below the average variable cost for the short run, the firm should exclude from this market because it is not profitable for this company. And for the long run is of course it is a little bit different. And as you are observing here, now we have the average total cost only, not the average variable cost. Therefore, firms' long-run supply curve is expected to exceed the average total cost, and it is expected the firm will enter into the market when the average total cost is exceeded by the market marginal cost. Therefore, if the supply curve is exceed this average total cost, firm's profit is available. Therefore, firm's profit is supposed to be realized in this direction. And when you are looking here, as much as the price average revenue and marginal revenue is equal and it is above this area, there is a profit. And as you see, the average total cost is below the price and so-called below the demand curve, and so-called the supply is higher than the average total cost curve. And this will then gives you this shaded area, this blue shaded area will gives you the profit. Therefore, we have to concentrate on this direction for creating some profit for the firms. And as I said to you, firms enter into the market in the long run when the price is above the average total cost. And of course, in the short run, it is possible to enter into the market when the average variable cost is exceeded by the supply curve, or so-called the marginal cost is above the average total cost and average variable cost. But in the long run, it is only expected to firm joining or entering into the market when the average total cost is exceeded for the firms. The marginal cost is exceed to the higher level. Therefore, the firm's supply curve is now higher than the average total cost, and it is, of course, profitable for this company because price is higher than the average total cost for the long run. And in the long run, if it is below the average total cost, this is not profitable area, this is not acceptable. Therefore, firm will not join to this market, and it is not preferable and it is not profitable for this firm. We have here, once again, the price, so-called the demand curve, is equal to average revenue is equal to marginal revenue. And if it is above the average total cost, and it is, of course, the marginal cost, which is the supply curve, is higher than the average total cost, we are expecting a profit. Therefore, the blue line is the total cost curve, average total cost curve, and above this curve, above this U-shaped curve, there is a profit. But if it is below, there is no profit. And since these firms' profits intersect each other, the supply curve intersect demand, and it is above the average total cost curve, then we have the profit. And as I said to you, this light blue area, which is the amount of the profit, will be calculated by multiplying the Q with P minus average total cost, will give you the total amount of the profit for this company. And once again, when we are putting this graphic below this average total cost curve, this blue line is, of course, not profitable for this business because price is located or situated below the average total cost curve, and if, of course, supply curve and demand curve intersect each other below this average total cost curve, and price is equal to average revenue is equal to marginal revenue is located to the below of this average total cost curve, and this is, of course, not profitable for this business. And there is a loss for this company, which is the purple rectangular area is represented. And when we are calculating with this rectangular area, average total cost curve minus P multiplied with the Q, this will give you the loss of this company. And the marginal cost curve is, of course, as I said to you, is the supply curve. Either, as you see here, we have the quantity price, the marginal cost is the supply, as we mentioned several times. And as you are observing here, it is totally similar, represented with the marginal cost and the supply. The individual firm supply and market supply, as you see, is totally represented in the same direction and same logic. The zero profit is realized when P is equal to marginal cost and average total cost, as I mentioned to you. And when the supply curve is intersect this, then this is, of course, giving us the expected zero profit. Once again, here, the demand curve, the average total cost curve, and marginal cost curve intersect each other, and this is then of course 0 point, and it is expected that in the short run this will be exceeded with the including or considering on comprising the average variable cost curve either. And short run supply curve and demand curve intersect each other, and as you are understand, this is then the equilibrium point, and this is then the price where it is the best for this company. And here in the left side of the graphic, it is represented with the marginal cost, average total cost, and of course demand curve intersection. The long run supply curve is also given here, where it is represented on the right side, as you observe, and the marginal cost curve is intersecting the average total cost curve. In the short run, firm enter into the market when the price is higher than the average variable cost and the average total cost curve. But in the long run, as I said to you, it is expected that the demand curve is exceed and enlarge the profit with this direction. As you are represented here, you are observing it is increased and enlarged now the profit to the higher level, where it is represented with the P2. The profit area is represented as well as from P1 to P2 multiplied with Q on the left side, and on the right side also, where the supply and demand curve represented, and the long run supply curve is also intersecting each other. And on the left side, we have this profit where this intersection realized above the average total cost curve. For the long run is given here once again. Now it is supposed that the long run is shifted below, because in the long run there is some other factors than price which is affecting and changing, and this of course shifting the supply curve to the downside, downwards, and of course bringing the market towards the equilibrium again, as you are observing here, because price in the short run is effective for changing the quantity, but in the long run this is of course not like this, because factors of production is more effective for changing the long run supply than price. Okay, this was the competitive markets. Then I'm going to jump up to the supply, demand, and the of course market in the monopoly. What is going to be in the monopoly, how the monopoly affecting and changing the market price, and of course the market structure will be given to you quickly. And then after finishing the chapter, I will give you some information about the exam, and for this floor and selling price also quickly I will flash back to you. If you have any question, please ask. If you don't have any question, I will go to the next chapter, to chapter 15. Do you have any question?
No.
Okay. Okay, monopoly. Monopoly, as you are understanding, means there is only one producer in the market, and monopsony, only one consumer, only one seller, monopoly, only one buyer, monopsony. We are now going to the monopoly market and trying to give you some information about this market structure. Monopoly market is very important because If you are the only producer of any X product, this will then heavily affecting the market because you are the determinant of the price. You can determine easily your price without any problem. You can increase, you can decrease, but of course in competitive market, the consumers also affecting and changing this price. But in, of course, monopoly, producer is more effective for the market price. This is then, of course, average total cost curve as you exercise in the former chapters. The amount of the output and the cost is given here, the average total cost curve, as you are observing. As much as you are increasing your production output, the cost is expected to become decreased to a minimum level, so-called the near to the fixed cost, but not that much. But somehow it is becoming a constant position, somehow, because you are enlarging your production, increasing your quantity produced, and on the other side, decreasing your cost of your production. Therefore, economies of scale realize in this direction, because economies of scale means mass production always affecting and changing the cost and reducing it to the minimum level. This is the reason the China, or so-called the China bazaar, everywhere selling very cheap, and everybody prefer to buy from China bazaar or Chinese products, because economies of scale, which means the amount of the produced goods and services increased and the cost of this production is decreasing. Therefore, as much as the amount of this production increased, the price and the cost will become reduced. And this is then, of course, very important to know for the monopoly. In the competitive firm, demand curve is like this, is a, of course, horizontal line. And in the monopoly, it is inverse related. This is, of course, in the normal competitive market also, in the short run, can be represented. And the monopoly's total average and marginal revenues will be then estimated again with the amount of the production. As you are observing here, we have the unit price, we have the amount of the water which is produced, and then total revenue multiplied with the amount of the water with the price. Then, of course, 2 times 1 times 1 is $1, euro, sorry, 2 times 0.90 euro is going to 1.80, and it goes like this until the 5th and the 6th unit, where the marginal revenue is becoming 0, and of course the total revenue is somehow become equalized at 5th and 6th unit of production, where the price of this product is somehow continue to decrease. But as you see, as much as you are increasing this quantity of water, the price will become reduced to a lower level, and the marginal revenue is decreasing after this 6th unit. Therefore, the marginal revenue is important for maintaining the production if it is in positive. If it is in negative, there is no need to continue this production and enlarge this production in this direction. The average revenue is also similarly reduced, but the marginal revenue, the contribution of the additional unit, is negative, which means decreasing the contribution of this market, and it is, of course, not preferable. As you see, because of the total revenue, you see after the 4th, the 5th, and 6th units, total revenue is 3 euro, which is the highest, because up to the 6th, it is increasing, and after the 6th, it is started to decrease. It is starting to decrease to 2.8, 2.4, the total revenue. Therefore, it is not preferable to maintain this production in after the 5th or so-called 6th unit. Therefore, when we are drawing the graphic here, the demand curve, which is inversely related with the price and the quantity, because as I said to you, the producer is profit-oriented, but consumers, of course, utility and preferences is becoming more eligible. If the utility is more and the welfare is increased, then people prefer to buy more. Therefore, as much as the price decreased, then the quantity of water which is consumed by the demander or consumers is increasing. Therefore, the buyers' capacity and of course quantity is enlarged as much as the price is decreasing. But the supply side is different. As much as your price is increased, you are going to enlarge and increase your production. Therefore, there is, of course, a contradiction and differences between supply and demand curve, as I mentioned to you. And here we have this marginal revenue, and as you see, the marginal revenue is the additional contribution of the each unit is a little bit different, and it is decreasing. As you see, after the 5th or the 6th, it is decreasing and becoming negative to the 1, to the -1, -2, -3, and it goes to negative direction. Therefore, it is not preferable. If you are going to plot the given table on the graphic, you see the marginal revenue, the additional contribution of this revenue is decreasing after the 5th unit. Therefore, it is not preferable to maintain this kind of production if it is the marginal revenue is negative. The average total cost curve is, is illustrated again here. The marginal cost curve intersecting each other, and of course the marginal revenue curve. And as you are observing, this point A is the starter, so-called the profit maximizing point is assumed to be in the monopoly. The intersection of this marginal revenue curve and the marginal cost curve determines the profit maximizing quantity, because we have this intersection for creating profit. And as much as you are above this average total cost curve, there is no problem for the monopoly either. And the demand curve is intersect here again, the average marginal cost curve. But if you are going to consider this marginal cost curve and marginal revenue curve intersection and draw a vertical line towards to the demand curve, you have the profit zone, so-called, as you see here. When you are going to draw this line from A to B, this vertical line, this intersection, marginal cost, marginal revenue to the demand curve, you have the, of course, profit zone, which is represented, and it is above the average total cost curve. Once again, we are drawing here. You see, this will gives you the profit, the monopoly profit. Profit maximizing for the monopoly. Monopoly maximize profit by choosing the quantity at which marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost at point A, and it then uses the demand curve to find the price will induce consumers to buy the quantity. Therefore, as much as you have the intersection to the demand, which this point A and point B will gives you the amount of the monopoly profit, where the price is estimated at point B, which is represented with the E, and of course the rectangular or so-called the square or the area represent this light blue area, the profit for the monopoly. The monopoly firm maximizes profit by producing an output QM, which is given here at point G, where it is intersecting marginal cost, marginal revenue, and it sells the output at price PM, as I said to you, where it is drawn a vertical line from G to E to F, where the average total cost curve intersect the demand curve and the area, the green area between the average total cost curve, because here the average total cost curve is higher, and the price where it is represented with the E, it is the intersection of the demand curve, will give you this green rectangular area, the profit. The profit is always in this area, and it is expected that above this average total cost curve. To determine the profit maximizing output, we note the quantity at which the firm's marginal revenue and marginal cost curve intersect. The QM, this E and G, as you see here, we read up from QM to the demand curve. You are going to draw a vertical line where this intersection point between the marginal revenue and marginal cost realized up to the demand curve. Then you reach up the price where you are going to determine for the market, for the monopoly, and firm can sell QM at that PM price. Therefore, the profit maximizing price and the output are given by the point E on the demand curve, and this area where the average total cost curve and the demand curve intersect, the green area will give the profit. The monopoly profit, therefore, we can determine by using the following three steps. Determine the demand curve first, marginal revenue and marginal cost curves, and select the output level at which the marginal revenue and marginal cost curves intersect, and determine the demand curve, the price at which the output can be sold. As you are observing here, when you are going to draw this vertical line from this marginal cost, marginal revenue curve, then you will reach this demand curve intersection, and at that point you have the market price for the monopoly, and between this marginal cost, marginal revenue, where the average total cost curve located and drawn, and of course the demand curve will give you this profit zone for the monopoly market. Production function cost and profit can be represented with Y is equal to K plus L, where the capital is K and L is the labor. This is the most well-known production function, where the output is represented, and the total revenue is calculated by using the formula price of the product multiplied with the quantity of the product which is produced, and the total cost will be then represented with the L multiplied W plus K plus R, where the L is the labor, W is the wages, plus K is the capital, and R is the real interest rate, also called the interest rate, will give you the total cost curve. And the price is, of course, or the profit, so-called total revenue minus total cost, is represented and giving you the so-called the monopoly profit. And marginal revenue will be then, of course, delta TR divided to delta Q, where delta TR is the differentiation of the total revenue, will be divided to the differentiation of the delta Q, where the change in the total revenue will be divided to the change in the total output or the output, and the marginal cost, the change in the delta TC divided to delta Q, where the delta TC is the differentiation of the cost, will be divided to the differentiation of the quantity produced. Therefore, the change in total cost will be divided to the change in quantity, will gives you the marginal cost, and marginal revenue minus marginal cost will give you the demand curve, which is the price represented. And for the competitive markets, we are supposing price is equal to marginal revenue and marginal cost, and for the monopoly, profit is equal to total revenue minus total cost. And we can rewrite this equation as a TR divided Q minus TC divided Q multiplied Q, where this is then of course giving you the profit. The total revenue multiplied Q minus total cost divided Q, so-called will gives you multiplying with the Q, the profit. And total revenue divided Q is a average revenue, and which is of course equals to the price, and the total cost divided to Q is the average total cost, is of course the average total cost represented of course in this given formula, and this will then gives you the profit, where the profit minus average total cost on the graphic you remember multiplied with the Q will gives you the profit. And here once again for the competitive market, if you're remembering and if you are gonna flashback yourself to see the competitive markets, it is supposed that the price is equal to marginal revenue and marginal cost. As you are observing here, demand curve is equal to marginal revenue, and here is supposed to be the average total cost curve on the left side of the equation, sorry, on the graphic is represented with the profit, where the average total cost curve is intersecting marginal cost curve, and this will then of course intersect the demand curve, where the marginal revenue is intersect and represented. This will then of course supposed to be the profit for the given films. On the other side, when we are looking to the left side of the equation, you are observing here where the demand, so-called the marginal revenue, is below the average total cost curve, and is, if this is of course not above, this will then of course causing some loss, and marginal cost curve where intersect average total cost curve is then of course doesn't make any sense, because it is giving negative numbers, and it is of course causing some loss for the film. And the monopoly market, as I said to you, this marginal revenue, marginal cost intersection will be considered as a profit starter. And when you are drawing a vertical line to the demand curve, you are reaching to the price for the monopoly market, and between this area where the average total cost curve and the demand curve is realized and intersect each other will give you the profit for the monopoly market. And for the monopoly market, we have price multiplied with the marginal revenue is equal to the marginal cost, and marginal revenue curve and demand curve graphically, when we are illustrating here, we have to remember and understand the logic of this, because demand curve is double size of the marginal revenue, because when we look at the marginal revenue curve versus the demand curve graphically, we notice that both curves have the same intercept on the p-axis as you are observing here, because they have the price, the vertical we are talking about, they have the same constant, and the marginal revenue curve is twice as stepped as the demand curve. As you are observing here, marginal revenue curve is double stepper than the demand curve. This means the coefficient on Q is twice larger than the marginal revenue. In a given example, the marginal revenue curve is twice a step. It intersects the Q axis at a quantity that is half as large as the Q axis intercept on the demand curve, which is 20 versus 40 in the given example, is of the half of it is represented with the marginal revenue curve. When we are going to put this logic to the equation for being able to understand how this is realized, let's have a look to the following example for being able to understand this concept. The marginal revenue curve, as I said to you, is double stepped, double sloped, and of course double size, and it is of course stepped as the demand curve. It is double stepper than the demand curve, also called the double slope of the demand curve. When you are looking to the demand equation, which is given here, QD is equal 40 minus 5P. And when you are going to write the inverse equation, P is equal to 8 minus 1 over 5 QD. Therefore, when you are going to put this to the total revenue curve, because we are trying to find the marginal revenue, and marginal revenue is the delta TR over delta Q, then we are having here the total revenue P multiplied Q, and P is given here 8 minus 1 over 5 multiplied Q in a bracket is of course multiplied with the Q. Then when you are finding this equation is 8Q minus 1 over 4 Q square. Then Q square is of course for the marginal revenue, means then we are going to get the derivation of this, then the of course derivation for this, then we have the Q, then total revenue is equal to P multiplied Q, then is equal to, as I said to you, 8Q minus 1 over 5 multiplied Q power of 2, then will be of course represented with the marginal revenue, which is the delta TR divided to delta Q. That's the of course derivation. When you are getting derivation for this given example above, which is 8Q minus 1 over 5 Q square, if you know some derivation, you are understanding the 8Q after derivating it will become 8, and the 1 over 5 Q square, the derivation will gives you of course 2 over 5 Q, where you are observing here the double stepper comes from this intercept of the Q. As you see, 1 over 5 and 2 over 5 is given here. Once again, you look here, demand curve and marginal revenue is given. And as I said to you, marginal revenue is double stepper than the demand curve. And the slope is, of course, more, causing more stepper vertical line, which is represented with the red line, and the blue line where the demand curve is given is more flatter. It is more horizontal, as you are observing here, and the marginal cost curve is of course double size here when you are looking to the monopoly quantity in a given in the competitive market, and competitive quantity is of course enlarge and increase to the double size in a given graphic. Marginal cost and the demand here is intersecting each other. The cost to monopoly is given here in value to buyers is given in the blue line, and of course value to buyers is greater than the cost of the sellers. Therefore it is preferable, because cost to monopoly is of course lower and the value to buyers is higher. Therefore this is reasonable, good, and cost to monopoly is now higher and the value to buyer is lower. Therefore is of course value to buyer is less than cost to seller. Therefore is questionable in a given graphic. And when you are looking here, the monopoly price is here very high, as you see, and this is then of course quantity produced. The efficient quantity is represented at the intersection point where the marginal cost and demand curve is represented, and the dead weight loss is here, is represented again here with the purple triangle, which is of course gone, and it is not calculated, neither consumers nor buyers, and of course government. When you are looking here, if the demand curve is below and the marginal revenue is below of this average total cost curve, I said before also this is a loss, and average total cost curve should below this marginal cost, and of course causing some profit if it is above. If it is below, this will then cause some loss for the company, and it is not preferable for the monopoly market. And for the single price with monopolist application, marginal revenue, marginal cost is given here, as you are observing, is of course several times I introduced and mentioned. The profit is realized here because demand is higher than the marginal cost, marginal revenue, and the profit zone is represented where you are intersecting this and drawing this vertical line towards the demand curve, and the monopoly price here is realized. The light blue is the vertical represented with the demand curve, where this square, so-called rectangular area, is showing the monopoly profit, and above this blue triangle is the so-called welfare for the consumer, which is limited and very low. And of course, this is then debt weight, as I mentioned to you, is not good for the economy. Once again, the marginal cost now is high, as you see here, and demand is, of course, realized very below level, and the profit is going to the perfect price discrimination for the monopoly market. This was the chapter that I am going to introduce you in 1 hour, as much as I am able to do, because online classes is, of course, not very communicative. We are only presenting our topics and you are listening. But if you have any question, you will ask me, then I will refresh you again. If you don't have any question, I will give you some information about the exam and flashback you with the selling price and floor price, and then finish this class. Do you have any question? If you have any question or anything to ask me, you write me mail. I'm going to ask you in the exam 30 or 35 questions, and I will give you some 70 minutes to do this. All is multiple choice, and you will have the answer, of course, and you will choose the correct one by doing in a restricted time. If you don't have any question, I will jump up to the selling price. Who is going to ask me in the class? I will explain. If you don't, then I will finish it. Do you have any question? Do you want me to go flashback to you this selling price and floor price?
Yes, sir. We can do that.
You don't have any question about this monopoly or competitive markets?
No, I don't.
Okay. You want me to go to the monopoly selling price, I think, this chapter 6. As I said to you, I will have 35 questions somehow and 70 minutes. I think it is a reasonable time for doing this exam. On Monday at 10 o'clock, you will attend to the class, and you have to open your microphone and camera because it is a regulation. It is demanded by the Higher Education Council, and we have to follow up these regulations because our university is also dependent to the Higher University Council, and we have to apply these rules as much as we can perfectly. Okay. You are agree, I think, with the exam. You are because I have to ask you reasonable questions. It is 40 points again, and I will give you 20 points for your assignments, which is also good points. And if some, then I will contribute above 100 with your assignments, with your attendants who are attending regularly to my class. I will, of course, consider and upgrade your results regarding to your performance also.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. If you ask me which part you want me to refresh you.
Sir, can we have an idea of what is coming in the exam? What topics and where should we focus our attention on?
It is started from chapter 1 and it goes through to 15, but I have excluded chapter 10, 11, and 12. These 3 chapters are not included to the exam. You understand? And the rest of the chapters are related each other. So I can exclude the midterm topics because you have to know these things to do the next, second term or the so-called the final exams, because these are all related each other. These are connected each other. And I can say you don't have to study first or second chapter or fourth chapter or sixth chapter because they are all related. You have to exercise it. And I will put some easy questions also for you in the exam from these chapters either. Therefore, I don't know how we are going to do it without these chapters. So you study my PowerPoints also, and I have uploaded the book. Did you get the book? I have uploaded the book, the monkey book.
Okay.
You have the book. You can check the book. There is on the files. I attach these chapters, these PowerPoints also in the system. You can upload, and I have my videos in YouTube also. You can collect these videos also and study, because there is no other chance. You have to do this online. And as I said to you, if you have any question, write me email during the weekend days. I can help you.
Sir, should we be expecting calculation on TFC,
Calculation.
TFC and all the total cost?
Some, not too much. It's not difficult, isn't it? Total cost, variable cost is not difficult. Or some QDQS equation calculations to finding price and quantity, equilibrium price, equilibrium quantity. It's not difficult. I think you can do this.
Okay.
Isn't it?
Sir, please, when is the exam?
It's on Monday. Monday at 10 o'clock. Monday at 10 o'clock, okay?
Okay, sir.
Online. So you have to come and open your microphone and your camera. Microphone then you may close, but camera is compulsory, I think. Okay, it's price ceiling and price flooring. Price ceiling, as I said to you, is the price where you are setting the price highest level in the market. You are understanding? I don't know which part you didn't understand, but I can repeat all the chapters, but I can go quickly to tell you some information about these topics. You want me to combine with the tax, or you are understanding these theoretical parts? Price ceiling is the price where you are having the highest price. You are going to cut the price at that level, isn't it? For helping people. You are not letting people to increase the price more. The producer are not able to increase the price more. So you set the price, you make intervention to the market. You are understanding? So there is an intervention to the market for preventing higher prices. This is, of course, good for the economy, because higher price is also not good, because higher price means higher inflation, and inflation is not good for the economy because it is creating too much negative effects. You are understanding? Therefore, higher price is not good. Therefore, price ceiling is put to the system for preventing higher prices, to increase of the prices, to preventing at a reasonable prices for the people. For example, if you have necessary foodstuffs such as milk, milk products, dairy products, poultry products, bread, and such things, then you don't have to worry about it. The government will regulate it with these interventions. Then you will able to buy some milk for your children, for yourself, for your family, or some bread and other watering, or all these things which is necessary foodstuff is given with this aspect. You understand? I have to give you graphic, I think, then you will understand. I will jump to the graphic. Of course, I have to refresh you. Binding price ceiling occurs when the price is below the equilibrium. You understand? Because if it is below the equilibrium, it is affecting the producer. If it is lower located, because price ceiling means higher price. And if you fix it below the equilibrium, This will then restrict the market. This will reduce the competition. This will reduce the production, because you fix the price. Let's say if the equilibrium price is 5 and you fix the price for $3, then of course producer will not prefer to produce at $3 because you are limit them to produce with $3, and of course the profit is also limited. You are not able to increase the price to reach to the equilibrium level. Therefore, this is binding price. This is affecting the market, so-called. You are understanding? This is not good. If a balloon want to float to 50 meters, then the sailing must be below 50 meters in order to effective. If the sailing is 100 meters, the balloon price can rise to 50 meters with no problem. Therefore, binding price occurs when it is below 50 meters. Is not good. But if it is 100 meters, then you have the space to let them to go up as much as you are increasing it for creating a reasonable price for the producer and for the consumer, because lower prices is always creating problem if it is fixed to below to the equilibrium. This is not good for the economy. You understand? And opposite is also for the floor price is realized. But let me finish this first. Price ceiling is, of course, where the market price is referred to as a below the equilibrium is the binding effect realized, and non-binding where the price ceiling is above the equilibrium. As I said to you, in general, a price ceiling will be non-binding whenever the level of price ceiling is greater than or equal to the equilibrium price. Therefore, non-binding effect is realized where it is above, because you are letting the price to go up to the equilibrium or go to the equilibrium level, which is desired for bringing the market to the equilibrium. But if it is below, then this is, of course, binding effect realized. You're not letting the producer to increase and enlarge the economical effects and of course production towards to the equilibrium. Therefore, this is of course causing somehow negative impact to the economy. And non-binding is, as I said to you, where you are having greater than the equilibrium is no problem. Let's see here. Non-binding is above, you see, there is no problem here because you have the higher price than equilibrium. This is not effective. This is not creating problem to the economy. Therefore, this is not a big problem. But if it is below, as I said to you, price below equilibrium, this is an of course problem for the economy because the government requires the price not to rise above that price, and this is an of course problem for the economy because it is now below the equilibrium and it is binding. You understand? You let the people to produce, for example, 75 units, but not more. But the equilibrium is higher. The equilibrium amount probably 100 units. Therefore, you have to produce more. This will create shortage to the economy. Therefore, this is not good for the economy. You understand? Let's go to the short run and long run. Here is given. Short run, if it is supply, the restricted vertically, and of course creating more demand is not allowed. Therefore, this is shortage. This is creating shortage. And in the long run is of course buyers and sellers of rental housing respond more to market conditions on the supply side, and the of course low rents reduce the house construction. As I said to you, this is negatively affecting because you are not able to produce more, you are not able to construct more houses. This is then of course long run effects for the people, and this is not encouraging people to contribute and increase this market. And in the long run, when you are looking here, you see this is then the control rent, let's say, then limit this, and it's creating more shortage because you have supply shortage restricted to a limited, let's say 10, 100, whatever it is, but there is more demand, and this huge amount of differences causing some shortage to the economy. Therefore, you don't have to put this binding price below the equilibrium. This will then create too much problem to the economy. You have any question about this topic, or shall I have to go to the floor price? Do you have question, Olufemi? Olavali?
No, sir.
Which part you don't understand? You want me to go jump up to the tax because the tax was problem for you, or is okay? Shall I have to go to the price floor?
Yes.
Price floor is, again, as I said to you, this is then the lowest price. You are putting the price to prevent the producer. If price is falling down and you don't want to let the producer to lose too much, you put restriction. Lower than price, you are not allowing producer to reduce, or the market, if it is invisible hand, the demand and supply, so-called affection, is reducing the price below the equilibrium and well below the expected market price, then you have to put the floor price, which means you are not letting the price to fall below this floor price. You understand? This is then how it is realized. And as you see, the floor price is binding. Floor price, let's see here. Let's see here. If above it is realized floor price is binding, this is opposite of the selling price. And if it is below, is not binding, because as much as you are fixing it to the below, because this is the floor price, so-called the lowest price, then there is no problem for worrying. But if the price for floor price is set above the equilibrium, then you see there is a surplus in the economy. This will create surplus because floor price is very high, and as you see, between supply and demand, there is a huge amount of surplus, which is 20 units of this surplus is created and is not good for the economy. Therefore, price floor is not binding if set below the equilibrium, and it is binding if it is set above the equilibrium. Above the equilibrium, price floor is effective, is affecting and changing the market. But if it is below, it is expected, no problem, not causing too much to the economy. And when we are going to the tax, let's see, for example, the minimum wage is set above. As you see, there is a labor surplus, because it is very high. The minimum wage is now very high, and if the minimum wage is high, the producer, or so-called entrepreneur, will not prefer to employ more people. But if the minimum wage is set well below the equilibrium, it is affecting economy and letting the people, so-called entrepreneur, to employ more people, because minimum wage is very low, very small, and you can employ more people with lower wages or lower salary. Therefore, this floor price and selling price must be carefully treated for not affecting, causing too much to the economy. Let's look up to this tax effect. Without tax, we have here the price $3, and if the price is realized where the tax is affecting and changing the demand to 3.30, then of course this will then reduce the price and reduce the demand capacity because of the higher price, because tax negatively affecting the demand. But let's have a look to the other side of the economy. If it is supply side of the economy realized, this will then create, of course, negative effect to this supply either, because supply is supplier or the producer have to pay more to get this price to the government, and this is then of course negatively affecting the profit and maybe restricting and creating some problem to the production operation process. But as much as it is affecting and changing the price in the market, this will then causing problem to the demander, so-called the buyer, and reducing the price, increasing the price, reducing the demand capacity. As you see, it is shifting the demand to the 92 units, and which is expected price sellers will receive results of this tax. Again, here without tax is represented here for the sellers, You see the sellers now increasing their prices because of this tax, and this will then cause, of course, problem to the producers and reducing again the quantity which is produced. And this is, of course, not good for the economy, and it is expected that the price for the seller's reserve again is shifted to the 0.280, which is restricting the economy to the lower level. Therefore, in any case, reasonable tax is good for the economy, but as you see here, is not too much. It is only 10%, but if it is higher than 10, 20, 30, this will then causing too much, which is going to be introduced to you in this example. The tax wage is represented here, as you see here. As much as this triangle, this tax wage triangle is becoming higher, this means the tax effect is affecting and changing the economy on the direction where the loss of the economy is disappeared, evaporated, because of the enlargement of the debt weight, because tax increasing the labor demand and labor supply, but enlarging the tax and, of course, reducing the efficiency of the economy. Therefore, tax must be reasonable given to the economy. Cobweb I am not going to give you in this direction because it is not related. This is another topic. If you don't have any question, I will finish this. If you have any question about this topic, or if you have any special question about this selling price or floor price, you can ask me and I will reply you. Or if you want me to go flashback and reply you some other question, please ask me. If you have any question to answer. Do you have any question? Was it clear for you, or shall I have to repeat it? Any part? Was that not? You don't understand, or is that okay for you? Olufemi?
Yes, sir.
Is okay now?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay, then see you on Monday for your final exam.
All right.
Until 13th of January, you have time for finishing your assignment, the last assignment, which is going to be evaluated around 10%. Okay. Thank you for participating my class, and hope to see you next semester with the new, probably the macroeconomics. If you are going to attend to the class, you will get this macro from me probably again.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you on Monday at 10 o'clock. Okay.
Okay.
See you, sir. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you.